There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt, and this is DirecTV Part 2. I don't know if anyone will care about this, but I love this. I love these stories. Oh my goodness, there's so many stories to tell, but I probably will get to most of them now. I think I've told half of them, or maybe if I come up with more, who knows. Another one, because and in fact, these people that I work with, that I've worked with, one of them lives up the road from me, and one of the ones we talked about and laughed probably the hardest on was the time where, and actually. I don't want to give their names. I don't want to give their names because they probably do listen to the podcast. And they probably know because I said I was going to talk about this. But they both share the same first name. And it's so funny because he still keeps up with the other guy. And he brought him over to the house and we got to chat a little bit and laugh about that. And he probably doesn't want to laugh too much about it. But back when hazing was still allowed, yes, it was still allowed back in the mid-2000s. And they wanted to haze this sorority. Now, he was part of a fraternity, and his girlfriend at the time, which I don't think is his wife now, so that's probably why he didn't want to tell the story, but was in a sorority, and she said, hey, I want to haze the girls, the new pledges. Can you help out? He went, yeah. So they were going to take him out to her uncle's house way out in the, they had a cabin, it wasn't a cabin, it was a nice mansion. Beautiful house out in the woods, kind of disconnected from the internet and everything. But really, back when the internet wasn't everywhere, or maybe they still had dial-up there, I don't know. Either way, though, it was a beautiful place, and that's where they're going to spend the weekend and kind of bond together with the new sisters. But she said, we want to have, she knew someone at the local sheriff's office who was going to come by and knock on the door. Yes, the sheriff was involved with the haze back then. The sheriff's department was. To knock on the door and say, hey, we're looking for an escaped felon. He could be in the vicinity. If you see anything, please give us a call. And they had landlines back then. And so that's how it started. But they needed someone to be the burglar or the escaped convict who was, running around in the backyard and banging on the window or what was the thing. I was going to bang it. There's this big screened in porch and I was supposed to go up to it and kind of look around, look inside and try to get inside the door and they were going to scream. But the thing was, they knew everyone from the other fraternities from the school, and it had to be someone different. So my buddy, who was on my team at the time, said, hey, I think my manager would do this. And yeah, all day I'll do that. I was like, yeah, okay, I love pranks, so I'll do it. So I remember at the same time, the IT team, which I talked about previously, the prior week, one of them I remember his name was Cody. He's a police guy now. And he's still a good guy. Whenever I see him, we laugh about the old days. But Cody was going to start his own IT, fixing or putting together computers, gaming computers for people. It was a side business a lot of people had back in the day. And he was giving me his card, but he made T-shirts. And so he gave me a T-shirt. I said, dude, I'm wearing this tonight. So I wore the T-shirt. Well, when we got to the sorority, it was so far out to get to the house, I had to take a dump. And I couldn't wait, and I couldn't go inside, obviously, so I just went right there in their backyard. Yes, in their backyard. I think I buried it. It was so dark I couldn't see. But I pooped in their backyard, and then, of course, I got a wipe, right? So I grabbed the IT shirt, and, I buried that too. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, so now we are going to the sorority to scare them. He gave me my notes. I had a wig on, a mullet on, a cap, greasy little white shirt, some jeans, that didn't fit, looked like I'd stolen them. And so I'm carefully tiptoeing by the windows while they're playing this game. Now, none of the girls have their cell phones. Their cell phones have been put in a bag for the weekend and tied up. And I keep walking by and keep walking by. And then now I'm not hiding it. No one is looking out the window. And it's a big window pane. So then I start tapping on the window. But they're having so much fun and they're being so loud, no one can hear me. So I look at the dude and I was like, maybe he said, just try to slam into the door. I was like, that's a good idea. So I went to turn the knob and slam into the door. They forgot to lock the door. So I came bowling in and I kind of tripped and fell. Well, when they saw that, there was a sonic wave that hit me of screams. And all these girls, I swear, ran up the stairs. In a horror movie, you see the girls run up the stairs when they should be running out the front door. They were running up the stairs. And Scream had come out by then. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I remember that's what I thought. I was like, wow, just like in the horror movie. So, of course, I don't know where to go because that was not part of the plan. I dive into the kitchen. And I'm like, my heart's palpitating. I'm like, oh man, what if someone comes at me with a knife? Because they don't know me, except for his girlfriend. And so his girlfriend comes in and she goes, oh my gosh, you scared the piss out of us. She said, I was even scared for a minute. She went, okay, they're all up there. Will you, before you leave, just go up there and rattle on the doors a little bit? I was like, I don't want to. I want to go home. They said, no, please do this and you can go. I was like, all right. So I get up there and, I'm about to rattle on the first door. Okay, I swear, this is the conversation I hear behind the door. Is he gone? I think he's gone. Hold on. Let me look. Let me check and see. Have you not seen a horror movie? You don't peek and check. But that's exactly what she did. She opened the door, stuck her head out. I was right there, and I kicked down the door. I was definitely in character. It bowled her over, and I heard an entire room of girls scream so loud. I felt the vibration from all their voices. I started laughing, and then I took off my wig. The Ashton Kutcher thing back in the day, the show was called Punked. And I was like, you got punked. And the older sorority sisters came in laughing at them. One girl threw up in the bathroom and needed to be consoled because it was just too much for her, which is why you probably shouldn't be doing this. But I remember that was quite a time I had scaring the sorority group. But then, oddly enough, I would move up again to HR. You think a guy, this is someone who shouldn't be in HR. Yes, at the time, I agree with you. But I had we had an HR lady who ran up the door screaming like 2 months later or whatever. And I told her a long time ago, I want to be in HR. I was so fascinated with HR, I wanted to do it. And so she said, okay, well, maybe you can help me out. So I was kind of helping her out with a few things here and there. And then when she quit, for obvious reasons, it was just like a college fraternity in there. It was just a HR nightmare. I decided to take over, but they weren't going to pay me, they said. I still had to be a manager. Well, I got so good at it that my team basically ran itself because I tell everyone on my team, I'm not training employees, I'm training managers. Because, to be honest, 5 out of the 6 managers they hired came from my team after that. I was very proud of that fact that all except for one manager had been from my team because I'd really trained them and really trained people well to be managers. And I wanted them to run themselves so I could run HR. And eventually, yes, they went ahead and relented and gave me the position, which I was so happy and probably not well prepared for because there's a lot of things I did not know how to handle. I did handle them, but just did not. I couldn't consider what was going on. For example, one guy came in, we did the group interviews, and he was twitching and every once in a while. And I thought, and everyone was kind of, the 2 people next to him were kind of worried. And I did my spiel, and then after it was over, I said, hey, can you come see me for a minute? And I thought, is this guy on drugs? And I said, hey, everything okay? He said, yeah, why? I said, well, I don't know, you looked a little anxious in there, so I was just checking. I'm just waiting to see if he's going to say something. He's like, oh, I have Tourette's. And I'm trying to hold back from saying something. And I went, what? I said, you have Tourette's and you want to work in the call center? Yeah. I said, talking to customers. He said, yes. And I went, one moment. And so I let him go back in there, and I walked it to my boss and said, you won't believe this. And we started cackling. And then someone else came in and said, hey, that guy has Tourette's? I said, yeah. I said, why? He said, oh, yeah. He said, I went to school with him. You shouldn't hire him. I said, oh, what's his word? His word was the N-word. And he was not black. And he would say the N-word a lot, supposedly. Yell out. He said, that's probably what he's trying not to say right now because he knows he'll get fired if he says it. And I was like, you're kidding me. And I looked at the vice president and we start like, oh, no, we can't do this. But then after laughing about it, I said, you know what? That took a lot of guts to come in here. And I said, I think I want to hire him. And then my boss said, you cannot let him talk to customers. I said, okay, so customer service, and that's out. Well, can we? And I was thinking, well, he doesn't know IT. There's shipping and receiving, but they had a lot of black people on their team, and then the loading dock was all black people, and I was like, I just didn't want to put him in a situation that would make him look bad or get people angry with him. Maybe some people would have understood, but remember, this is the mid-2000s. It's, but either way, we didn't end up hiring him, but I thought it was brave of someone with Tourette's to come in. The other one, I'll say, I'm going back and forth between interviews, I guess, and just strange things that happen. When Ashley left, we had a new floor manager, and who was, I guess they gave her the promotion because I had kind of gotten a promotion above her, and she had been there longer. And I'm not sure, but she was maybe a little hurt that I jumped her. Because when I became manager, we were peers now. She was okay with that. But when I jumped over her, I don't think she was okay with that. So they gave her the floor manager position, which was highly sought after by several probably more deserving people. But this lady, Stacy was her name. Oh, Stacy. She just had a good heart, good intentions, but just bad ideas. One of them, we used to have the top 10 salesmen of the month. And we put that up. But by the end of the month, it was the same top 10. And they were so far ahead of everyone, no one else had a chance to break the top 10. So it's kind of redundant. We kept showing them. Well, I walked down the floor one day, and she has 10 different names I've never seen up there, and their names are in flames. And I was like, shut up. 10 hottest salesmen at the moment. Like today, who's making the best sales? Because even the best salesmen have bad days. And I walked into there, and I congratulated. I said, that is such a smart, I should have thought of that. I said, instead of talking about who's the top 10 of the month, which is a lot of the same names, I said, you went for who's hot right now. And I said, that is a great way to think. You're thinking outside the box, Stacy. I'm proud of you. She went, no, that's not what it means. That means top 10 people most likely to be fired by the end of the month. This was our floor manager, the chief above all the other managers. She was the call center manager. Yep. And it was 2000, maybe 8 by now. 2007, 2008 by now. So, yeah, probably should have known better. Because let me see. I was working on the floor for 3 months. I was probably a manager for 1 year, I think, and then got the bump to HR, which I stayed there for a while. We had to write people up for different things. I wrote someone up for stealing another employee's pants. Yes, you heard that right. Stealing another employee's pants. On second shift, a lot of kids from the school would come in. You're not allowed to wear jeans. Remember, it's just khakis. One guy came in, forgot his khakis, and just grabbed someone else's that was hanging on the clothes rack and wore them. And when the guy came out of the bathroom, he couldn't find his clothes. We had to pull the security data in the hallway to see who had pulled them. And I had to write him up for, yes, stealing another employee's pants. And I could not have him sign it because I kept laughing so hard about the whole ridiculousness of it that I had the site manager do it for me because I couldn't stop laughing. We had another one where this girl, we didn't have any security. Anyone could walk into our call center, which changed after this incident. It was toward the end, though. But this girl came in, walked in, no one knew who she was. She picked up another girl by her hair and started just wailing on her face. I mean, big cat fight went out. And, of course, we had to pull them apart. I called the police. We're looking at the footage. I mean, she's just going to town. It was not, I said, she just came and attacked the girl. They said, did the girl do anything? I said, no. So he pulled the footage, and of course, security is just laughing about this, which in front of the cops, probably not the best idea. But she's just wailing on him. Well, anyway, we don't know what the heck just happened. One's called for an ambulance. The other ones are going around in a squad car. I'm sitting in my office just kind of shaking my head like, I don't know. Because I asked the girl, do you know the girl who attacked you? She went, no, I have no idea who she is. I don't know her. And as I'm walking back, I'm just so confused about what all happened. In the hallway, someone comes up to me. Yeah, I guess I can say this. I don't know. These people aren't around anymore. But Dante approached me and said, "Hey, Steve, what's going on, man? Hey, I need to talk to you." I say, "What?" He said, "I'm sorry about today." I said, "What are you sorry about?" And then it hit me. I went, "Dante, do you know that girl?" He went, Yeah, that's I'm a girlfriend. I said, that's your girlfriend. I said, why is she attacking another female? Dante. And he just kind of smiled. I'm sorry. So obviously he was sleeping with the employee. His girlfriend found out about it and went to town on her. Goodness gracious. This is what I had to deal with. It was insane. I grew to be disenchanted with HR over time, let me tell you. You think you want to be in the middle of everything, and you don't. The answer is you do not. During an interview, we had a guy, he was wearing his sunglasses inside, and he would turn his chair and face the wall as we were talking. He wouldn't even look at us. And me and my buddy walked out, and I said, Richie, I said, what is with that guy? He goes, yeah, I'm about to call him out, that punk. He turns around with his sunglasses on. I said, he said, what is he, blind? I said, no, because he can see. He's talking. He's looking right at you. I just want to know if he lost his sense of direction because he's staring at the wall. And then Reggie thought that was just super funny I'd said that. So he came back in, and I knew well enough not to say something like that in public. By then, I'd kind of matured a little bit here. And he said, before we start, I want to ask you something, bro. What's up with the sunglasses inside? He went, oh, I just went to the eye doctor and had them dilated, so I need them for the bright lights in the room. He was like, okay. Well, did it impact your sense of direction because you've been staring at the wall? And I was like, no, don't. And, I'm trying not to laugh, because that was my joke, and he wanted to throw that joke at him. Another one, I remember the VP came in, and if you came into an interview in jeans or shorts and a T-shirt, we weren't going to hire you, right? Because you got to dress up for the role. Kids, if you don't know that, dress up. Respect the business. Dress nicer than how the business dresses, but at least come in a polo shirt and nice jeans or whatnot. But people come in shorts and a T-shirt, I'm not going to hire you. I'm not going to hire you. And but we have to interview, and I knew that. Our VP didn't. And so when someone sat down, I knew immediately I wasn't going to hire him. But you have to run through the questions and say, thank you, we'll let you know. And of course, we always call people to let them know no. We'd always say that. But the decision was already made the moment he walked into my office. Well, VP wants to sit in on my interview because he wants to look at some of the people who are coming in. And he automatically says, well, I say, okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself. He went, stop right there. I need to address something here. And he says, look at the clothes you're wearing. Look at that T-shirt. What are you doing? Look at the bum. And I was like, oh, no, and just totally insulted the guy. And then after it was over, I told him he could not come back. I even got the owner involved. I said, tell him he cannot leave his office from now on. I was so mad. I said, that guy could sue us for what he just did. And every once in a while, you'd have people threatening to sue for discrimination. But to be honest, people would call me so mad. Why didn't you hire me? I said, why didn't I hire you? I said, okay, I'll tell you why. This guy actually got mad at me because I didn't hire him. He thought he had the job. He said, I thought he interviewed perfectly. I said, let me tell you. I said, so I walk in, you're reading one of our newspapers and drinking coffee that you'd gotten from the break room. You have your muddy boots up on our table. And I asked you, is there anything you need before we start? And you said, I could get another cup of coffee. I said, do you want me to get it? And you said, no. And you walked into our break room and got some more like you owned it. I said, I don't know who you think you are. And I don't think how you think that would impress me. We had to wipe down the table for your mud. Oh, they were muddy? I didn't know they were muddy. So just because they're muddy boots. No, just because you're an idiot, don't realize there's some decorum in an interview. I had another guy I fired one time, and he said, you going to call my mama and tell her why I got fired? I went, no, you're a grown man. Why don't you call your mom and tell yourself? And my favorite one was, there was a kid who was very susceptible to caffeine. In fact, if he had caffeine, it gave him the jitters, kind of made him go, I am the great Cornholio from Beavis and Butthead. And I knew that because he had asked me, when I was giving out drinks, he said, hey, man, can you get me some caffeine-free Coke? And I went, caffeine-free? They came in gold bottles back then. I said, sure, if that's what you want. Why would you want caffeine? I want you energized. He went, no, I can't drink caffeine. It makes me super jittery, makes me kind of crazy, wild. And my mom gave me Sprite as a kid, and I hate Sprite. So I like caffeine-free Coke because absolutely, dude, caffeine-free. So I'd only buy caffeine-free Coke for him. Well, my assistant manager was going to buy caffeine-free Coke. I guess I wasn't in HR back then. But I said, hey, look, man, go ahead and buy some caffeine-free Coke. He went, why do you get that? No one drinks it. I said, well, Seth does. He can't have caffeine. And I told him the story. And so my assistant Manager decides, okay, I'm going to buy a 4-pack of Red Bull and dare Seth to drink it all. Give him $20 to drink it all. Well, Seth wants money, so he drank it all. And of course, I had to send him home because he was really tweaking out over it. And when he got home, his mama called me and chewed me out. I don't appreciate your place. And what does it say when y'all haze my son and everything and blah, 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 because he told you that he couldn't have it and y'all gave it, you let one of the employees. I said, ma'am, stop right there. I said, your son's 18 right now. He took $20 for that bet. I said, I didn't approve it. I suspended my assistant manager for that. And I said, I'm suspending your son for taking the bet. He's a grown man. He makes his own decisions. Don't you ever call here again. I mean, I was furious. And when he came back, I said, Seth, come here for a minute. I said, I just want you to know that's the last time your mama calls here. Do you hear? Oh, she called. He didn't know, and he was all upset. I said, I'm just telling you, that's the last time she called. I was not having it. I had another interview where a guy wrote down on his resume that the reason for leaving his last job was impersonating an elephant. Not making that one. And so I read that, and I thought, surely I'm reading something wrong here. I'm reading something wrong. So I remember his name was Seth too. And when I approached him I said, hey, Seth, and this is an interview process. I said, so here it says the reason you left your last job was because, and I had to pause for a minute. I said, because you impersonated an elephant? He went, yeah, my boss was on the phone and I just wanted to get her attention, so I started pretending I was an elephant, and she fired me. And what do you say to that, right? And I was like, well, what were you doing? Like, I'm asking, like, were you making noises? Were you messing with her? I said, what were you doing to get fired like that? I don't understand. And so what he thinks I meant is, do your impersonation of an elephant for me. And he did. I'm watching a grown man act like he's an elephant. These are the kind of idiots that we hired. I hired him in a heartbeat. You better believe I hired him. I had a sick, twisted sense of humor sometimes. And if you made me laugh, or if you were desperate with no experience, but you wanted the chance, I'd give you the shot. Let it never be said. I didn't give it. In fact, I never knew this, and I wish I would have known, but one girl said I changed her life. I did not know this, but she was a drug addict, and we hired her, and one particular day she had just gone off of a bender that weekend before, and she looked rough. And I pulled her and I said, hey, you look a little rough, like you've been on a drug bender. And I was just joking. I didn't know she was. And I said, look, you're a very beautiful girl. And when you show up to work like this, you just look awful and you look kind of scary. And I don't want that. What I see is a beautiful, smart young woman. I said, I want you to start, paying attention to how you dress, how you look. I was being very kind, and I did this to guys too, but I did it to her. Supposedly, I remember she had called and said what had happened was she had been gone for a while. She went to rehab or something, and detox or something, and was somehow getting off work for this, and I didn't know, but decided that, wow, that was really nice. She never had anyone be nice to her, and it cured her. And I found out this way later, but he said, hey, you know what? Because I thought she just quit. I don't think she came back, but he said, no, she went to rehab and changed her life around, and she's so thankful for you for the talk you gave her. I was like, what? But she was embarrassed because I didn't think she would ever do drugs. Because I said, you're a nice girl, I think you're really awesome, think you're smart. And she was thinking, man, if he ever found out, he would be so disappointed in me. And no, I would have been so proud. And the thing is, I did see her a couple years back, and I wanted to say something, but she never, I think she was very embarrassed still, so I didn't want to bring it up, but I wanted to tell her I was proud of her, but technically I wasn't supposed to know any of this, but that was really nice. It was actually a nice thing. There's another girl I fired because someone told me she was drinking at work, and I was like, really? She had a giant water bottle, and so I asked for the water bottle. She gave it to me. I unscrewed it. It's pure vodka. You could smell it. And I went, is this vodka? She kind of smiled. She went, am I fired? I went, it's 7 a.m. What do you think? I couldn't believe that. So yes, fired. Gone she was. Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a part 3 to this because there's, yeah, I did not, I was not shy of cutting someone who I thought needed to be fired. I would call it choppa time, and I remember one guy I fired on Good Friday. He went, "You can't fire me." I said, "Why?" He said, "It's Good Friday." I went, "Well, while you're out looking for Easter eggs, look for some jobs too." I mean, I was like, I could not care less. But the thing is, though, we didn't fire them surprisingly. They knew they were getting fired. You knew if I told you to log off early and come see me, that means you were fired. I didn't want to just chat, shoot the breeze with you. We had already sent you 2 write-ups telling you if you didn't get your cells up, you're going to be gone. And then all of a sudden, Matt just told me to log off early. Woohoo! And come see him. Maybe I'm getting a promotion. No, dude, you're getting fired. It was weird that everyone was so shocked about this. So, yeah, this is going to take a while. But I will give you... Oh, which one of these? These are all nice. No, this is back when I was still a manager, so I'll give you this one. True story. And one of my friends remembered this story. Was quite shocked by it. He said that the owner was quite shocked. But the owner when back when we were managers, the owner had made us a deal. If we broke this record goal, if we broke the goal, not just he would give us all $10,000 each if we broke it. And that next month we did. Now the thing was, he had also paid for way more advertising. Double the flyers. We were in every phone book back in the mid-2000s. Phone books were still around. And but we were in every phone book, the biggest ad. So we actually had more advertising that helped us get over the loop. Well, he was really mad. He felt like, he'd paid a lot for advertising. That was the reason. He had underestimated the goal, is what had happened. And he told us so. And he told us that he gave us this long speech that he didn't think he should pay us, but I'll give it to you. He said, but I don't think you earned it. He said, because it's obvious my advertising did. Well, that pissed me off because I work hard. And so I took the check home. I didn't even open the envelope. And I was just pissed that he had said that I did not deserve it. And I walked back into his office that next morning, slammed that envelope down with the check. I said, here, not even open. Keep the check. And I said, and when you decide I am worthy enough, then you give it to me. And I marched out, and I got called back into the office later on. He gave me the check. He said, take it. Deal's a deal. Take it. No, he said, I shouldn't have said that. You guys work hard, so take the check. I was like, all right. But I was prepared. I remember sitting there thinking, am I really going to give up $10,000? Because I remember the other guy said, I was shocked when the boss, Steve, told me that you had just returned your check. He was shocked, supposedly, that I'd done it. He was like, can you believe this guy? This is $10,000. He just gave it back to me. And he said, I thought you were insane. You were insane. He said, but from then on out, and that's supposedly also why I got the promotion. Because he said, okay, this guy's pretty straight arrow. But not many times. One of the few times I've turned down big money, like that. Well, I didn't. I actually accepted it, but that's how much money you're thinking, wow, Matt, you made $10,000? Yeah, every month. Sales was a good thing for me when I was a salesman back in the day. I remember on one trip with Bruce from Prince of the Universe. Now, Bruce is a pharmacist. He makes tons of money. He's always been 6 figures. That one week, we went on a trip together to Comic-Con. I blew $5,000 in that one week. He did too, but it didn't hurt him. The next week, I had to get back and get my sales up so I could make up that money I spent. But yeah, back in the day, blowing that money, baby. What did I blow $5,000 on? Hookers and blow. No, I'm kidding. I don't recall. I remember that. I mean, that's the plane ticket. That's the hotel. That's maybe a couple thousand or so there. Ate out. Bought tons. Paid for tons of signatures and stuff. Bought tons of just garbage that I really didn't need. So probably that's what it all went to. But I remember laughing about spending $5,000 in one week, like a boss, man. Yeah, never. I spend $5,000 on bills. That's about and I don't feel like a boss there. But anyway, all right, so still got some great stories to tell. We'll do this one more time on Princes of the Universe.